right. Welcome to the Influx Data Chess Gambit, the Gambit Chess Tournament. It's the first one we've been having. Maybe we'll have some more. Welcome. Hold on, let me just get set up here. All right. Okay, so we're just waiting for the game to start. Looking at, let's see if I can look over here. The game is between Nathaniel and not Maya, but Maya's brother has somehow sneaked into the tournament, and we're just waiting for the game between them to start. So looks like we are off to the races here. So let me adjust this a little bit. Fix this. All right. And so we have, let's back up a second here. What happened already? Okay, we have a king's gambit. The king's pawn comes out undefended. Sorry, this is the England gambit, and the idea, this can be really tricky. The idea is black wants to trick white into leaving their queen side undefended, where the queen comes to this side with both a check and an attack on this pawn. And it can be very, very tricky. It can go very bad very quickly. And so this is part of the problem is white gets excited and attacks the queen, but leaves the defense of the b2 pawn. This is all part of black's plan, and I think the right move for black was to immediately play queen b4 here, attacking both of these pieces here and threatening to win the rook. And it looks like black has gone off plan a little bit. Maybe missed the point of the opening, but still anyone's game here. Okay, here comes the check, and now it also hits the bishop, so it's very deadly. Okay, this is the England gambit, spelt with a U, Englund, and it is treacherous if you have not seen it before, you've not faced it before. Nathaniel here is immediately going to be under a lot of pressure. Okay, and I think that was not the move. We probably needed bishop back. And with the bishop back, okay, oh, wait a second, hold on. I think white's okay here. White can just attack the queen. That was not the best response from black. I think probably the best response was maybe bringing in knight to attack a little bit more. We could take a closer look at that. Try and figure out. But yeah, white needs to bring the rook into the game and threaten that queen. Try and kick it back out. I like the plan though, developing the bishop and castling, getting the king out of danger. The whole point of the England is to put the king under a lot of pressure really quickly. So I really like the plan of trying to get the king castled to get him out of danger. So white's actually doing really good in this situation. Even though the material is even, black's queen is just kind of hanging here. I could easily kick it out. There's even ideas about like knight c4 here, hitting this queen, and I don't think you can quite trap it, but it's definitely messy. Knight c4 here is the best move, attacking the queen and saying, "What are you doing here?" Okay. And there it is. We found it. He found the best move. This is great. Okay, so um, now Nelson is Maya's brother Nelson under some pressure here. This is the England gambit gone wrong, which happens. It's a tricky opening. It either goes crashing. It's either a crashing success or a miserable failure. I feel like the games where it ends up in between, they're few and far between. Um, okay, getting spicy, doing what they call the Botez Gambit, giving up your queen. Wow. Okay, so the best move here is to capture the. Okay, it's tricky. It's tricky because the queen was also under attack, right? So if you capture the queen, then you lose this queen. Uh, but there was a trick there, and I still think capturing the queen was better because you lose your queen, but then you get back the bishop too. So I think you still come out ahead. But White's still doing fine here. Um, the bishop, it was just a trade, but you know, positionally, White's doing really well. There's this knight that hasn't developed off of its back rank here. The black king still hasn't castled. It's in the center of the board. Moves like queen h5 check already get a little bit uncomfortable for black. There's no way to block that. There's no piece that can jump into these squares. So and he finds it. So the king has to now move out of check, and that means that the king loses his castling rights. Now he's forever going to be stuck in the middle of the board, and that's a huge concession. That's giving a lot of strength to White. So White is doing really, really well here. And despite the rating difference here, Nelson is almost 1400, and Nathaniel's at 1163 right now. I know his rating's fluctuating a bit because he's been playing some games and trying to hone in on what his true rating is. But this is very impressive play from Nathaniel. He's dodged the venom of the England gambit, the and he's come out with a really strong attack here. So um, this move I don't like as much because now you're kind of giving up your bishop to this knight that was doing nothing, and um, I feel like that bishop was really good for you. Like maybe it had a better future than just being traded off for the knight that does nothing. So so now you've kind of fixed Black's problems with his development. You offered to trade off his inactive piece that wasn't doing anything for your active piece that was ready to go, and so what is Black's getting a little bit of some compensation here. So now it's probably time to get the rooks into the game. Get your last pieces active. Try and put them on good squares. And you can't go to e1 because the bishop guards that, right? But lining it up behind the queen, to aim at the queen is always a good strategy. That bishop just has to move out of the way, and then you've got a threat on the queen. Also, maybe putting it on b1 here, eyeing this bishop, kind of pinning down the knight so that the knight can't ever move. Because if the knight ever wanders off, that bishop is a free bishop, right? So, um, okay, yeah, great move. Eyeing the queen. That's an excellent move. Um, yeah. So now, what is Black to do? Black's got this problem where because he lost his castling rights, this rook is trapped in the corner, and so he might want an idea of like moving up the pawn, moving the king into the corner, and then moving his rook out. Um, Otherwise, you have to do something like pushing your pawn up for this rook to get into the game. So it's kind of an uncomfortable situation for Black still. Uh, Now you got to ask yourself, what does this last move do? And the last move is doing a threat for a check, trying to end the game. But White sees it and comes back to the defense of f2, which again, just excellent defense from Nathaniel. 5 minutes for each side here. Um, Nelson's slightly better on the clock. He's got a 30-second lead right now. But it's hard to do anything with that. I'd say at this point, white is doing slightly better. If I was black, I would be looking to activate this rook, get a threat going on the king. It's not a serious threat, but it's a better square for it. And then the other plan is just to get this king into the corner so you can get another rook out. You maybe double the rooks and then put some real pressure on the g2 square. But this is not so good now. Okay, throws in a check. Okay, this is a mistake because you've left the defense of the f2 square, and now black can throw in this check instead of trading. A move like taking the bishop move earlier would have been good, because black doesn't get this check. Now the king has to retreat into the corner, and it's not over, but you did have to give up that pawn. And so now I would definitely take that bishop and kind of remove some of the strength of this queen, remove its defender. Just the only problem with that is it kind of activates the rook, right? So there's now that rook kind of gets out. So maybe white can consider trading, but I don't know. Black isn't in a great position, so maybe white should consider holding on to their queen now. I don't think white's in any direct threat at the moment, so perhaps no reason to hold on to it, or to trade, I mean. So maybe just getting out of the way. I don't mind that move, but like I said, it activates this rook, and now this sad rook in the corner's a little less sad. Now he can join and be part of the game. Maybe after pawn takes, his next move brings the rook down here, and suddenly, he starts to be annoying. Comes back over to this file, lines up with the other rook, and suddenly that attack is back on. Well, I totally understand trading that bishop off, because it was very threatening with that attack. A lot of the strength of that attack's already gone. Okay, black chooses a trade off. I think probably pinning was better, but that's fine. Black's doing okay here. They're putting up a good fight. A good move would be a4 maybe. Trying to block in that rook and not give it any light of day. If he comes out, he's got an extra piece. If you keep him blocked up in the corner, it's as if he doesn't have it. So, a4 here is probably the best move. Okay, we see a battle over the pawn. This is called an isolated pawn. It's got no pawns beside it that can help defend it. So it's isolated. And isolated pawns are weak, and attacking isolated pawns is the way to go. In fact, if you get another one over here, black has a hard time defending. You can't go here to defend it because the bishop covers that square. And if he goes here, he can actually be kicked out really easily. Okay, so now a4, defending the bishop, keeping in jail. Excellent move. A really good play from Nathaniel here. Okay, attacking the bishop. Yeah, trade, and now the rook's probably going to break out of jail anyway here. Not sure we can prevent it at this point. The bishop's going to have to leave. Yeah, this causes a problem now. You You gotta watch it. You gotta. The rook was hanging there. He could have taken that rook um, instead of moving the king. It was a free rook, but it's not gonna stay free for long. I think he's gonna drop back here, or he could defend it, but dropping back is the better move to guard this pawn and free up this rook from coming to attack here. This pawn is on f6 is very weak, and it's going to stay weak because it's isolated. It's got no friends. We're going down into endgame. Nelson is up a pawn right now. You know, there's 3 pawns here against 2 separated pawns. This move I don't like because it blocks in the rook. The rook was active a second ago, and now he just kind of cut off his own horizontal axis. Trying to get the king into the game. I don't mind that, but I think something like this is kind of in order. Maybe even here, keeping the king from getting into the game. Now you've got a problem. That pawn is pinned. You can't take it because you'll hang your rook at the end. So you've actually just gotta sit there and wait, maybe defend it again. And then black can actually just push right past it, which is a bit of a problem. You know, black now plays b4, and they've got a passed pawn. Passed pawn means it's past all of white's pawns, and there's no pawns that can stop it. So that could be a really big liability for Nathaniel. So just having that undefended rook back there left this tactical opportunity where this pawn could push right past it. Trying to get the king into the game, but nothing specific. There's no real threat. I mean, you can come over, but it's defended by the king. There's a check, but I think the king just drops back, keeps this pawn defended, and keeps the rook from getting into the file here. So if the rook comes over, you can't get in. And white's doing okay. I think this passed pawn though is going to be really strong for black, and it's going to be, even though it's only a 1 pawn difference right now, the fact that it's passed makes a world of difference here. I think Nathaniel needed to put pressure on this isolated pawn a lot sooner. Win back that pawn, try and win the other weak pawns. Yeah, this is good. This is kind of an outpost. It's defended by the pawn. Nothing can really attack it, so keeps the king kind of from getting too involved in the game. A move I like now is d4, just kind of forcing black to take and break up their pawn structure. I guess he can push past it, which is a bit of a problem. So, but it's pinned, right? So it's had the same problem. Now black is threatening to trade off the piece. If he trades it off, you kick the king out, but now you've got isolated pawns against each other. It might work in white's favor just because it's kind of drawish, and it creates this barrier where black can't get into the position, and then the king can come over and try and fight for the other side. Now it's a bit harder to do. This is a good move. Okay, now he's got to come back, and that's okay too. He's got to defend that pawn. Okay, he drops the pawn, and that's going to be an important pawn for the defense. And so now black has 3 passed pawns, and that's going to be very hard to hold. And you know he's going in for the attack here, but now it's too late. He's low on time though. He's only got 3 seconds left. It's hard to make decisions under that. Even this is being tricky, right? Black can't take this rook because white takes the other rook. But yeah. So this is it's anybody's game still. But the time control is so hard to deal with. Once you get down to the bottom end of the time, you just have to move so fast, and it's difficult to even think at that speed. So you have to do a lot of managing your time as you go. Okay, so I believe we're going to get a rematch going in a second here. Game 2. First game goes to Nelson, Maya's brother, sneaking into the tournament and taking a win. Alright, let's see what happens next. Okay, we have d4, d5. Okay, this is called the Queen's Gambit. And the gambit is that white is not defending this pawn and saying, go ahead and take it. Okay, and this is the Queen's Gambit declined, saying, I'm not going to take your free pawn because it's not necessarily free. And so we get the Queen's Gambit declined position. And this is a very normal setup here to have the structure like this. You get a trade of pieces. That's good. Recapturing with the queen, not to damage the pawn structure. It's a good choice. Your queen's a little bit exposed here, but not too bad. Okay, delayed capture. And this is the idea. But white plays this, threatening to recapture the piece. And now you have to decide, are you just going to let it go? Or do you want to try and hold on to it? And Nathaniel says, I'm just going to let it go. So he takes it back. Okay, this is a pin on the knight. Queen comes to defend the knight. And castles. A good choice. Good choice to keep defended. Now he has to decide to capture or to fall back, and he decides to capture. That's good. There is maybe some idea of attacking this bishop, but the bishop just kind of falls back, and it doesn't really do any permanent damage. So the bishop might be wanting to go to this diagonal anyway. So a move like this might just be helping your opponent. And the problem with it is now your knight is stuck on a5. So it's kind of a one-move threat, and it worsens your position and kind of helps white get where they want to go. Okay, this one I don't like as much. I think that pawn was doing a good job of muting the bishop, and after that move, you got two pieces attacking it. You still have two defenders, but okay, we see the point now. The point was to activate the bishop. But then white says, okay, but you weakened your structure, and now I can put pressure on this f7 pawn. It's not falling by any means, but, it's okay. Amazing. Finds the best move. Okay, so the problem is the queen has to move and stay guarding this bishop, and then black can take the bishop and force the trade. White doesn't want to give up the bishop. That bishop is a lot stronger than the knight, and it's a huge concession to have to give it up. Now a move like this, just guarding the pawn, and can keep everything together. And you got to keep an eye out for potential forks here. It doesn't quite work right now because the queen defends the square, but it was something. Now we kind of close that opportunity off just to attack the knight. Knight's going to move maybe to one of these two squares. And I don't really like the pawn cutting off the bishop. I think that having the bishop active is a lot better. Now the bishop's kind of tied down to the defense of this pawn, and I think it has bigger dreams. It wants to be doing more. Okay, good. We have the defense of this piece now. Now that all the other craziness has been resolved. White attacks the pawn. Black defends it. Always got to ask yourself, what is the opponent trying to do? And Nathaniel seems to be on top of that. Very impressive play from him. He's doing really well. Especially against a higher rated opponent, it's easy to fall apart. Now this move undefends this piece, but we're still okay because the queen's got it defended. So now we're going to try and kick the queen out of the position. Try and force the queen to go back, maybe. Queen chooses there. We could chase it a little bit more, but the queen might just go back. So I'm not sure that accomplishes what we want. Oh, but that move undefends this pawn. So, white was worried about this idea of pinning this pawn and threatening checkmate, and so moved the king out of the way just to prevent that. Okay, but now we're kind of giving white. We're kind of pushing white into taking this pawn, and I think we want to try to avoid moves that kind of help your opponent. And in this case, I think that that just dropping that pawn was we didn't have to do it. So now we also have to have this one to worry about. White's actually got 2 attacks on it now, and we've got no defenders. So we're gonna have problems defending this pawn now. We can bring one back, but I can still capture it now. So takes, queen takes, and you've traded the knight for the bishop, but you've also lost the pawn. So it doesn't quite work. What could work instead is just moving the queen here, adding an attacker to the knight, because the knight can't move. It's pinned to the rook. This would be a very great move if you found it. Another one that works is queen e7, attacking the knight, and just there's a saying called pin it and win it. This piece is pinned, and he finds it. He finds the move. Okay, this is great. So white has a winning response, though, from this position. F3, attacking the queen and guarding the knight, and whereas he didn't have that resource from e7, so e7 was better. Hard to see. Yeah, now it's difficult. So he drops back, and now that piece is well defended. You can force the trade of queens, move the rook, and now the pin is gone. Now the knight can move. So I mean, black could take and double the piece, but double the pawns, but it also activates the rook, and you got to be careful about activating pieces. You don't want to give the opponent a better position than they have. You definitely want to try to restrict their movement as much as possible, prevent them from doing what they want to do. Now in this position, you take, it doesn't give them a better position, and you win the pawn back. So it's a little bit better now. I think black should take it, because it wins the pawn. And you're only 2 pawns behind. Winning a pawn is pretty big deal in this position. In fact, you can bring the other rook to threaten it. Okay, now we got a choice to make. Do we trade? Do we trade or not? I don't like the trade. I think probably you should just drop back. I think that's a good choice. Yeah, and then double the pieces. Yeah, the problem now is he's well defended here, so that's a little bit annoying. Switches over and attacks the other pawn. I like this. Especially if you can now drop in here and go back to this pawn. Just flipping it right around and saying, okay, now you can't come back so easily. Maybe come back here, come here, and then can white actually play this anyway? Maybe play this first, and if white drops down, you take this pawn. Okay, both players getting their kings into the game. There's also an idea of playing this first and then playing f6 or f5, where it's a pin. The king's in the game, so he's defending it, so it's not the end of the world. But I do like this. That's probably the wrong move to take it. You should have pushed it, keeping those connected passed pawns. But he took. Okay. This is good. I would probably play, I'd probably play king over. Yeah, that's what he plays. Attacking this pawn. Okay, attacking this one. You could probably push it. Okay, we can defend it too, but it's a little bit better for it to defend itself and not use the rooks, because we have other plans for the rooks. But it's still anybody's game. Nathaniel's only 1 pawn down at this point. He's about a minute and 20 seconds down on the clock, so that's a bit of a disadvantage. But now we can win another pawn. This is only defended once, and we've got 2 attackers. So the game is turned around now. Game's even. And we've got a move like this, which I think, well, it kicks out. Okay, yeah, it kicks out the rook. I think that was better. Kicked out the rook, and likely wins this pawn. Now White's able to add their king to the defense of the pawn, so it's going to be hard for it to go down. Um, yeah, this check. Maybe he just drops back. Okay, this is maybe giving you another opportunity to get in. You get into the position through this way. Yeah, I think, well, we lost a little bit of momentum there on attacking that pawn, I think. But we're doing all right. Game's still even. Biggest thing to watch is the clock. Just, keep an eye on the time. It's going to be so important as the game goes on here. This is an idea. Okay, this actually is not good. Rook takes f5, pawn takes, king comes over, and the king can't hold it, I don't think. Okay. That would have given black the ability to make a passed pawn here, heading down the board, and white wasn't in the right position to queen that pawn. So I think black had a chance to win here. Very tense. At the moment it's kind of drawn. Now Nathaniel needs a win here to win to potentially win the match, because then we'll go to overtime. Do a 3-minute 2-second increment game. You get 3 minutes per side plus 2 seconds for every move that you make, and that's a very fast game. He needs to go here to draw. Okay, yeah, that works too. Guarding the pawn. Gotta keep everything defended. This would be a blunder because if he takes, you can't take back. So don't try and block there. Probably play. Maybe not. Takes. What takes? Okay, now you could play it. Okay, check is kind of repeating moves. He needs to play for the win here because a draw is only going to give him half a point here. We're not really doing points, but he needs something forcing. Nelson won the first round, so a draw here is not going to do it. And there's a three repetition rule. If the same position is on the board 3 times, the game's automatically drawn. So you can't repeat the position if you're going for a win, and that's what we see. Okay. All right. Tough game, tough opponent. Nathaniel played extremely well, and it's hard to see him go down. But yeah, that's the way it goes. Nelson is going to move on, and Nathaniel unfortunately is eliminated. But very tough competitor. Much respect to him. See you in the next one.